Hey, Philosophy Pim here. Today I'm going to share a technique on how to set up a rotation framework on RevitFamily. This is going to be the part one of the video that I'm going to share two different techniques on how you can do that inside of RevitFamilies. And then I'll have a part two that talk about how to set up rotation framework on a different technique that you can utilize it for something else for your family creation. Okay, let's go. All right, I have a quick example here that kind of showcase what I'm about to talk about. So this is a kind of out of the box door family that I just modified using the reference line technique. And so there is a 3D swing angle here. So what you can do is you can change the angle here that will allow you to swing the door from anything from 0 degree to basically 180 degree and more, like that. And I'll talk about a different technique as the second part of the video here that also shared similar ways of how you can set up rotation. This is also using a Revolve. You can see that I have a parameter here also called 3D swing angle that will allow you to change the door panel angle like so. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's jump right in. So I'm gonna go ahead and first starting a new family. Let's go to new family here. For this demo, I'm just gonna go use a generic model here. Depends on what you need to create. You can actually choose different template to do that, but generic model is gonna be used here. All right, so let's talk about the first technique here, which is kind of the old school technique that's been around for years. Is called reference line. So first and foremost, in RevitFamilies, you have two different things called reference line and reference plane. So for this demo, we're going to be using reference line for the most part. Reference line and reference plane have different purposes in RevitFamily. So don't mix and use how you feel like it. I mean, they serve different purposes and different goals. For the most part, if you're setting a framework like for your geometry dimension like X, Y, and Z, you oftentimes go with the reference plane. But when it comes to controlling something like in angle, that you have to control the angle of something, like in this case we're trying to create like an angle parameter, rotation parameter to control the door swing, then you are best using reference line to do that. Okay, so again, what I have here, again, I'm in the generic template. I'm going to go off with the reference line here. I'm going to start off drawing a reference line from the family origin, which is over here. I'm going to make sure that I'm snapping the intersection point up here. I'm going to be doing like a 45-degree line like so. And I have 2 feet in length here. The length doesn't really matter. What matters is the reference line. You want to basically snap it to the corner of the intersection between these reference plane here. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and use my align command. I'm going to select the vertical reference plane and make sure that I'm choosing, you see that dot right there. I want to make sure this dot here, and then I'm going to lock it to it. So I'm basically constraining the endpoint of this reference line to this vertical reference plane. So now I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to go back to the align command, selecting horizontal reference plane, and go ahead and choose this dot here and lock to it. So what happens is now the endpoint of this reference line get constrained to this corner. Again, that means that this is the origin that is going to become the pivot point of this, basically this reference line. Okay, so moving on here, I'm going to go ahead and select the reference line and use the eyeglasses here to hide it. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up another reference line. This time I'm doing a different angle, but I'm also using the origin as my starting point, like this. Okay, Again, the length doesn't really matter, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make it 2 feet in length just to keep it consistent like that. And I'm going to use the align command to simply align and lock the endpoint to the reference line. Just like that. Okay. So now I will bring back the original reference line here, like so. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a dimension here. And instead of align dimension, I'm going to be using the angular dimension. First, I'm going to put a dimension between these two reference line here. All right. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and change the scale a little bit here. It's a little bit easy to read. So next, I'm going to put another angular dimension. This time, I'm going to choose between the reference line and the reference plane over here. Just like that. Okay. So what I have done is that I just set up a dimension here, which I'm going to set it as a parameter. I'm going to call this angle, or you can call it swing angle, doesn't matter. I'm going to set it to instant parameter for now. Just like that. Okay. The reason that I have to have the secondary reference line and have this as a 90 degree, oh, actually I forgot to do that. I have this 90 degree angle and I have to put a little lock to it. So what that means is this reference plane, the second reference line, the second reference line is allow you to constrain to the first one actually. So that means that when the first one move, the second one is going to always keep that angle to be 90 degree. So let's take a look at what it's going to do in this family. If I go to the family types here, you can see that I have a angle parameter here. So let's go ahead and set it to 90 degree. So you can see that the reference line is going to just move around the way that it's supposed to be. If I, of course, continue to increase the angle, it's just going to go ahead and swing around like that. Because both reference line constrained to that origin, which is the pivot point, it's going to swing around basically off this origin, just like, you know, just like a pivot point. So what you can do is, if you actually have a door panel or your door or anything that you want essentially hosted to the first reference line, you can essentially allow your reference line to control the rotation of that object, of that geometry. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to 0 degree here first. 0 degree, again, is going to set this to the horizontal position. But for now, I'm just going to go set it to 45 degree right now. Just like that. Usually this dimension is going to jump around like that. It's quite annoying. So what I normally do right now, I'm just going to set it back to here for the time being. Okay, so let's just say right now, if I were to create like a door panel using this system. So what I would do is I have to tell Revit to do something. Let's go to take a look in the 3D view. I'm going to go to 3D view here. As you can see that angular dimension also shows up. So what I can do, I can go to the visibility graphics, VG or VV, and go to the annotation category and simply turn off that dimensions here. Okay, so remember, I have two set of reference lines. What I want to do is I wanted to use this one to be my hosting line. So I'm going to use this one to host the object. So I'm going to tilt a little bit here. So now if I go to the create tab, I will tell Revit to say set a work plane. So what that allows me to do, you can see that here, it's going to ask me to pick a plane. Essentially, by default, the work plane is always going to be the ground level. In this case, I want my hosting plane to be to the reference line. So in this case, I have to choose a new work plane. I'm going to use pick a new plane, hit OK. With my mouse hover over here, you can see that it's going to choose this little dash box here to be my new work plane. Just another note here, if I hit my tab key, you see that if I hit my tab key, it will allow me to choose a opposite side of the reference line to become a hosting plane. So you can do one or two things. You can choose this work plane or the other work plane to host your geometry. So for this particular example, I'm going to use the horizontal one, which is this one here, to become my hosting plane. The other thing that's gonna help me visualize things is that if I hit the show work plane, it's gonna get that little blue tin box that show me that, hey, this is gonna be my kind of work plane. Okay, so now if I were to build my door panel, so what I'll do is I'm gonna rotate this thing here so that I can have my geometry parallel to my reference line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the rotate command. I'm simply going to do a 45-degree rotation. Okay, so now I can go to create tab and go to extrusion here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to create like a thin, tidy rectangular box. I'm going to do it over here. So for the demo, I'm kind of just doing in 3D view so that you can see what's going on. In the actual creation process, sometimes you'll be better off to create this on your reference level, which is your floor plan. Okay, so I know I'm kind of eyeballing it right now here, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to draw a rectangular box here. I can then kind of fix this dimension if I want my door panel to be like a 3 feet here by possibly 2 inch just for the time being. I'm just going to call it 2 inch here, just like that. So if I were to finish it, let's take a look. So I want to make sure this one probably, I will make it 7 feet tall, kind of like a door panel, like so. If I set it to a shaded mode, so let's take a look in reference level right now. And I'm going to go ahead and change that to color. So you can see right now I have that door panel located like this. So if I go to family types and go ahead and change this angle from say 45 to 90, you'll see that the geometry is actually following the reference line, is rotating the way that it's supposed to, just like kind of like a door swing. Of course, if I set it 0 degree, I could do that. Right, so now with this geometry, with this door panel being hosted to the reference line, everything that you're going to be doing will kind of behave based off the reference line. So that is one of the great and easy trick that you can use to generate rotation framework to your family creation. So that's just one of the ways, okay, on how you can create like a rotatable, swingable door panel or in your door family. Okay, so that's just one of the possible way to do that. Okay, so I'm going to show you the second way to how to do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start another family. Go to new family and go ahead and choose another generic template here. Right. Okay, so this time I'm going to be using a different technique. This one is called a Revolve. So this one has been around for the last few years, possibly, now that I'm thinking about it, probably more than 10 years, if not longer. So this is a little bit more newer technique that can utilize a revolve, which is a revolution geometry, to achieve the rotation setup. Okay, in this case, if I want to mimic the door panel rotation, I first have to create a geometry in my elevation. So I'm going to go to the front elevation here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this a little bit over. So I have to basically create like a revolve here. Let's go ahead and do that because I'm in the front elevation. So I'm creating a revolution simply by drawing a simple box here. Remember, I still want to use my vertical reference plane as a pivot point. So what I'm about to do is I'm drawing the revolution sketch object based off this vertical reference plane over here. All right, so I'm simply going to be using a rectangular box. The size of this geometry doesn't really matter. I just want to have some clean dimension, as always. So I'm going to go ahead and make this like a 6-inch this direction and 6-inch the other direction. Okay, so for my access line, which is defining my my pivot point on my axis of my revolution geometry, I'm going to be just drawing that line like so. If I have a lock here, I'm just going to lock as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish that. Okay, so now let's go back to the plan view and look at what we got, or 3D view for that matter. Okay, so in the 3D view, essentially I just basically made like a pie here, like a pie-shaped object here, right? Okay, so but if I want to go back to the reference, I want to show you what I got. When you select the geometry, look at the properties there. You basically have two set of angle parameter. Remember, anything that you see here, they are parameters, or they can become parameters maybe. Okay, so to start with here, I'm going to change this angle to 90 degree here, for example. You see that right now, instead of a pie, I got a quarter of the pie, I guess, here. So now I have two set of parameters. One is 0 degree, the other one is 90. So let's take a look. If my start angle becomes 45 degree, let's take a look what we got. You can see that this end, right, this side is going to kind of rotate it like that. Okay, I'm going to set it back to 0 again. Okay, so with that, what I can do is I can set these two angle value to become parameter. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the start angle here. I'm going to make a new parameter called angle 01. I'll make it an instance and hit OK and OK. Then I'm going to go back to this one here. Also make a new parameter called angle 02. Also as instant. And hit OK. Okay, so now with this here, I'm going to go to, let's just go to 3D view like this. And if I go to family type, first thing first is similar to the reference line technique. I want to basically maintain that 90 degree as a constant. So basically what I mean is, if under the angle 2 parameter, I'm going to type a formula. I'm going to call it angle 01 plus 90 there. 90 equals 90 degree. So what that means is, now hit apply. What that means is now my angle 2 parameters is always going to have that 90 degree plus whatever 01, the angle 01 is. So in other words, if I go back to front plan view again, if I only going to set up the value on angle 01, I'll set it to 45 degree. You see that this pie here is going to start pivot based off the origin. If I, of course, continue to adjust this value, you can see that this pie it continue to move around based off that. Okay, you can see that. Again, I can do it 180 again. So you get this idea. I can set this from pretty much from 0 degree to 360 degree, and most of the time, Revit's not gonna yell at me. It's not gonna give me constraint not satisfying errors. Okay. All right. So now let's get back to 0 degree here. Okay. So what does that mean? So what that means right now is taking the same concept. If I'm using this pie here, I can now, instead of reference line, I can use this little pie here as a framework to set up my rotation parameter or kind of a rotation framework. So the way that works with this is, first of all, I'm going to go to the Create tab. Similar to the reference line, I have to tell Revit what my work plane going to be, what my work plane is. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use set work plane. This window is going to show up again. I'm going to go ahead and pick a plane again, hit OK. So you can see that with my mouse here, I'm going to zoom in here. I could choose any of this surface from my geometry as a work plane. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this surface here. Also, I'm going to go ahead and set up the show work plane. So you can see that now this vertical surface is going to become a hosting plane. Okay, so now with that, so I'm going to go ahead. Just now I want to turn this off, otherwise it's going to get in my way. So I'm going to turn this off. So what that means is if I were to create a door panel like this in 3D View, I'm going to go to my extrusion. I'm going to create a box using my rectangular command. Instead of a thin box, I'm basically drawing kind of like the elevation of my door panel. So I'm going to use from this corner, this is going to be my rotation axis or my pivot point. I'm going to draw a door panel. And of course, I want to make sure that this door panel is going to be something like 3 feet wide by 7 feet tall. And I'm going to go ahead and finish it. Okay, of course, the thickness for now, I'm going to set it as 2 inch for the time being. So you can see now I have a door panel that is actually hosted to this surface from the Revolution object. Okay, all right, so now if I go back to the reference level floor plan. So let's take a look at the family types again. All I need to do right now is to use the angle 01 parameter here. Let's just start with 45 degree to rotate my door panel, right? So again, let's do 90 degree first, then 135, and then 180, right? Again, if this is a door, I'll probably just set it to 180 degree, being the maximum degree that I can choose. If I'm making something else, you know, sometimes maybe you need it to be 360 degree or something like that. So, but for now, I'll go ahead and set it back to 45 degree here, just like that. Okay, so there are now 2 different techniques. They are quite similar. Depends on what works for you for the kind of your creation. So with this revolution technique here, so let's take a look again, right? So again, if this were a door panel, then you kind of left with this little guy right here, okay? There are a couple of ways you can go about it. So for now, if I just don't want to see that, because I need to have this little guy here in place, because if I delete it, my whole framework is going to break. Okay, so I can't delete it. It has to be there. So what you can do is you can actually go to the property of this little pie, this revolution geometry. Under this visible here, this little checkbox, all you need to do is to uncheck it. You can see that it's literally like a gray tone applied to it. Essentially, it tells you that this thing is become invisible by the time you load this family to the project. Okay, so this thing is not going to show up at all, but it's here in the family. So that is basically it. Okay, what about this here, right? So what about if I use the reference line? So reference line is not going to show up. Reference line never showed up actually once you load it to the project. They are here, they are visible, but they just don't show up at all in project. So you don't have to worry about turning this off, or there's no visibility control at all for reference line. So you can just leave it the way it is. Of course, this little show work plane, you can always turn it off once you're done with that. So that's basically it, right? That's the technique that you can use to basically make your door panel to be rotatable. Again, there are tons of other things that you can use this technique more than just a door family, right? Again, this example here, like I said, I go back here. I basically make the modification of this door to do just that. Okay, so I'm gonna go take a look, show you. If I go to the reference level here, I guess I have to turn off a bunch of things. But maybe if I go to the 3D view here, if I just hide this door, you can see that I have two set of reference line hosted at this corner. So these two reference line exactly is the same like the example that I show you. So it is constrained with this parameter and the 90-degree dimension, angular dimension. Okay. What about the second one? So the second one using the rotation revolve technique. Let's open that. So if again, you can already see the geometry under here, right? This little guy. Again, I have this also turned off here so they don't show it up in the project. But that's basically the framework of controlling the door swing, the door panel swing. Again, you don't see that geometry here anywhere. Okay. So that's it. That is kind of the two techniques that I want to share with you. You might have seen this somewhere else, but this is kind of like the breakdown of how you can set up this rotation framework inside the door, inside the family creation. I do have another one that I'll probably save before the next video. This is this shading device here. I have another technique that allows you to rotate this louver blade. So, okay, so let's take a look here. I'll save it again. I'll talk about the technique of how you can achieve that in the next video. Okay, right now, for example, I have this 45-degree blade angle here. If you change it to 90-degree or 0-degree for now, oops, 0 here, you can see that this louver blade actually rotates itself. Okay, I can do it from anything from 90-degree or even negative 45-degree. It's going to rotate that. Okay, so I'll talk about it in the next video. So hopefully you stay till the end. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would very much encourage you and want you to subscribe to the video, subscribe to my channel. And I'll have more tips and tricks and technique on RevitFamily creation. So if you have any comments you want to learn more, or if you have anything that you want me to talk about in the future videos, just leave a comment. Okay, leave a comment in this one here or my other videos. Okay, hope you like it, and thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.